A mother who sells herself to support the family, a father beaten paralyzed for stealing, and me, who defied fate to get into the top university. This is my chaotic family. My parents may not be good people, but they shielded me from the storm when I was young. On the day I received my college acceptance letter, I held their hands. Mom, Dad, I've grown up. From now on, I'll be the one to shelter you from the wind and rain. My mother nodded with a smile, but that very night, she and my father shared a bottle of pesticide. All that remained was a suicide note with crooked handwriting. From now on, you'll be on your own. Take care. When I opened my eyes again, I had traveled back 24 years. That year, my mother hadn't yet been molested by her stepfather, and my father hadn't been sent to juvenile detention. The moment she saw my top 1 university acceptance letter, my mother cried. She had always been a strong person. She didn't cry when my father was beaten paralyzed for stealing. When the local bully forced her to sign the letter of understanding, she didn't cry. When she was grabbed and beaten by women on the street, she still didn't cry. But now, holding that delicate 3-dimensional school gate model, she cried so hard she could barely breathe. My eyes reddened as I silently nestled beside her, gently stroking her back over and over. My mother wiped away her tears and carefully brought the admission letter close to my father, beaming like a child. Second brother, your daughter has made it. My father lay in bed, his eyes sparkling. Apart from some muscle atrophy, the past decade had left almost no trace on him. In contrast, my mother's temples were frosted with white, and the corners of her eyes were etched with deep wrinkles. My heart ached with a bittersweet sorrow. With one hand, I took my mother's rough, calloused hand, and with the other, I held my father's thin, bony hand, pressing them together tightly in my grasp. Mom, Dad, I've grown up. From now on, I'll be the one to shelter you from the storms. My mother cried again, curling up in my arms, a small and skinny little ball. My parents lived recklessly in their youth. My mother was a nightclub hostess, and my father was a delinquent who had been in juvenile detention. They lived day by day without a care, until one day they took a liking to each other and got together. Marriage did not save their lives. They still relied on deception and trickery to get by. Until I came along, they poured all their love, all their patience, and all their humanity into me. At least until I was 10 years old, I had a relatively happy family. One day, my father passed by a shopping mall and saw a beautiful gold necklace. He imagined how this gold necklace would look around his wife's neck, and in a moment of madness, he did something wrong. The mall security caught him on the spot and beat him severely. He was badly injured, left with high-level paraplegia. The mall management, fearing liability, forced my mother to sign a letter of forgiveness. To support this crumbling family, my mom went back to her old trade. By the time I reached adolescence, I realized I had an abnormal family. I began to hate them. Why did you bring me into this world to live such a miserable life? My mother just kept her head down, repeating over and over, I'm sorry. Later, I came across a notebook. It recorded how 2 young men descended into depravity and how they found redemption through a new life. My parents, they too were once pure and unblemished, yet the hardships of fate shattered them into fragments. Their own lives were tattered and torn, yet they struggled to lift me up, guiding me onto the path of light. How dare I resent them? A knock sounded at the door, and my mother hurried to answer it. A pot-bellied middle-aged man squeezed in. Oh, what's going on here? Come on, let Big Brother take care of you. My mother pushed him away, forcing a smile. Brother, I'm not doing this anymore. The middle-aged man questioned discontentedly. Not working. If you don't work, what will you eat? What? Has your paralyzed husband gotten up? My mother proudly raised her head. My daughter got into the top university. From now on, I'm going to live a life of ease. The middle-aged man froze for a moment, then flashed a greasy smile. Not bad for a little girl. You'd be perfect for my son. Come here, daughter-in-law, and meet your father-in-law. My mother, like a lioness suddenly enraged, slapped him across the face. Fuck off. You're not worthy. Before the middle-aged man could fight back, I had already grabbed a kitchen knife and charged out. The kitchen knife struck the wooden door frame, just centimeters away from his head. He cursed a few obscenities and fled in panic. My mother held me tightly, her body trembling uncontrollably. It's okay, don't ruin your life over a worthless person. Clearly, she was the one who suffered, yet I was the one being comforted. My voice was hoarse. Mom, from now on, let's all be well as a family. My mother nodded. her eyes and brows gentle. Okay, this little episode didn't disrupt her good mood. She prepared a lavish table of delicious dishes, even allowed me to have a few small drinks, and kept me engaged in her long, rambling conversation. My father sat with us, his eyes darting around as if trying to imprint the image of us mother and daughter into his heart. I didn't understand their deeper meaning at the time. I just thought they were unusually happy. Their happiness made me happy. Keep, my mom called out to me before I went back to my room. She stood under the dim yellow light, each strand of her hair glowing. I felt dizzy all over, unable to see her expression clearly, only remembering that she was smiling. Sleep well. I had the best sleep in years, and then I regretted it. On the nightstand were two white porcelain bowls, with unmelted sugar at the bottom, now turned into a blackened lump by the pesticide. My mom and dad lay peacefully in bed. Mom was wearing a red dress with two braids in her hair. Dad wore a white shirt and gray trousers. The two leaned against each other, just as they had in their wedding photo. After taking them to the hospital, the doctor said it had been a whole night. The pesticide was fully absorbed, and there was no saving them. Even as I held the two small urns, I still felt a sense of unreality. Why? Everything was about to get better. So why did you leave me behind? Then I found that suicide note with its crooked handwriting. Mom and Dad have failed you. You'll be on your own from now on. Take good care of yourself. An overwhelming grief pierced through the membrane that had been containing my emotions, and I let out my first wail in days. Tears covered my face as I cried until I fainted. I had a dream. That was when I was very young, before my father became paralyzed. He rode a motorcycle with my mother sitting behind him, and I was squeezed between them. The wind howled in my ears as I nestled in the little cocoon they formed, sucking on a piece of fruit candy. The evening glow dyes half the sky red, guiding our family home. I was startled awake by a gentle touch. Opening my eyes, I met a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes. The little girl quickly withdrew her hand and asked me warily, "Who are you? Why are you lying here?" I blinked, hearing my own hoarse voice. "My name is Keep." She helped me up, muttering softly, "What a strange name, Keep." She looked up and saw me staring straight at her, instantly blushing from her face down to her neck. "I'm sorry." I patted the little girl's head, barely able to suppress my sobs. When my mother was pregnant with me, she discussed with my father whether to abort me. They thought of many reasons to give me up, but in the end they kept me. They themselves didn't understand why they did it, so they named me Keep. The little girl looked ashamed and hurriedly tried to comfort me. "Keep, your name is much nicer than mine. My name is May." The warm sunlight enveloped her, making the little girl's unruly hair glow golden, like a fluffy dandelion. I smiled through tears. "Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Mom. This is the new millennium. The transition between old and new is filled with opportunities and challenges. But as an outsider, I have no identity, no money, and can't move an inch. Let's talk about identity later. First, I need to figure out how to make money." I found the busiest internet cafe in town and applied for a job as a network administrator. In this era when the internet was just emerging, my limited computer knowledge was enough to show off. The boss eventually hired me. The salary isn't much, just enough for me to rent a small single room with a little left for food. When I saw May again, she seemed a bit surprised, hearing that I wanted to rent her house. She was very happy. "Keep, I don't know why, but I feel a sense of familiarity as soon as I see you. Can I call you sister?" A lively and adorable little girl, with curved eyebrows and eyes, looked at me with genuine sincerity. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "No, you should just call me by my name." She lowered her eyes in disappointment and turned away with a pout. "All right, Keep, come with me." The ponytail swung back and forth behind her head, lively and spirited, a stark contrast to the numb and exhausted woman she would become in the future. I was momentarily dazed. "Mom, as a child, you were such an adorable girl." "Dad," May put away her smile and stood somewhat awkwardly in front of a middle-aged man. He was May's stepfather, Jason, the man responsible for the tragedy of her life. When he saw May approaching, he reached out to pinch her cheek, but the child dodged his hand. "This kid." He smiled with apparent indulgence. "Dad, someone wants to rent the house." May stood at a distance. I stepped forward, shielding her as I chatted with Jason. Jason wore a simple, honest smile on his face, unconsciously rubbing his hands together as he spoke. He seemed like a very honest person. No one could have imagined the despicable and shameless things he did in private. That part of the past wasn't detailed in my mother's notes. But piecing together the truth from fragments of words left my heart wrenched in agony. After May's biological father died in a mining accident, her mother remarried Jason. Her mother soon became pregnant again, and the whole family was overjoyed. But then her nightmare began, a tender young girl, her figure not yet fully developed, yet her features already revealed an uncommon beauty. The perpetually unsatisfied old beast then extended his sinful hands toward her. May tearfully told her mother, "This woman, as fragile as a daughter plant, chose not to protect her daughter, instead blaming her for being a seductress who tempted her own husband." After that, Jason became increasingly unrestrained. May endured 4 years under the abuse of her stepfather and the indifference of her biological mother, until Jason's business left him drowning in massive debt, and he sold May to work as a prostitute in nightclubs, during what should have been the most beautiful years of her life. Her body and mind suffered immense trauma, so much so that years later, when I caught my mother entertaining clients at home, she calmly ushered them out and asked me about school as if nothing had happened. At that moment, I was both devastated and disgusted, crying as I asked her, "Why do such things? Couldn't you just sweep streets or wait tables?" "Mom, I eat very little. I don't spend money. Can you please stop doing this?" She wanted to hug me but withdrew her hand, only able to look at me helplessly. "But Mom, this is what you're supposed to do. Besides, if I go out to find work, who will take care of your dad?" Her calm demeanor made me feel like I was the abnormal one. At that moment, I was lost in confusion. A person with a past full of scars, how should they live the rest of their life well? Fortunately, May's mother is not pregnant yet. Nothing has happened. This time, I will never let the tragedy repeat itself. The bottomless beast and the mother-wife without personality. Let them be locked together forever. After finalizing the rental agreement, I waved at May. The child came running over with quick, light steps, following me like a little tail. Though she didn't yet know what was about to happen, those uncomfortable encounters had already made her start avoiding Jason. She's a perceptive child. "May, you can always come to me for anything in the future. I'll help you." The little girl looked up at me with bright, clear eyes that sparkled. Okay, over the next month, I accomplished 2 things. The first thing I did was create a simple search web page using my self-taught programming knowledge. In this era where memorizing URLs is required, it was undoubtedly a groundbreaking move. I seized the opportunity to hitch a ride with a gangster who had a severe internet addiction. "Black, I'll leave Jason's matter to you." A young man with a multicolored afro patted his chest confidently. "Little sister, don't you trust your brother's skills? Once he steps into that casino, I guarantee he'll lose everything down to his underwear." I smiled sheepishly. "Bro, once the job's done, I'll upgrade your web directory for you." One of a kind. The second task was to tail a few vocational school students skipping class to play online games. Coincidentally, I came across an old news story over 20 years later. A national treasure-level agricultural expert was accidentally killed in a robbery by 2 vocational school thugs after returning to his hometown to work. That county town happened to be May's hometown. I tracked down those 2 thugs, kept a close eye on them for a long time, and finally found my opportunity. Robbery. "Hand over all your money." Late at night, 2 thugs cornered a frail-looking man in an alley. The man obediently handed over his wallet. "Wait, that's a nice phone you've got there. Give it to me." The man resisted fiercely, which was out of character. 2 gleaming silver knives were raised high. Bang! I stepped forward with a stick, making an entrance like a hero. The knives clattered to the ground as the 2 thugs fled in pain, clutching their arms. Next is the settlement phase of repaying kindness with demands. Top experts capable of influencing a nation's economy can offer things beyond measure. All I asked for was a legitimate identity to remain in this world and a substantial sum of money, with everything prepared. The gears of fate began to shift. Jason was visited by debt collectors. Several tattooed thugs beat him black and blue, Jason's agonizing wails echoing throughout the entire building. "Big bro, please give me a few more days. I really don't have the money." The response was a dagger planted right beside his hand. "Enough talk. If you can't come up with the money today, you won't need this hand anymore." Wait, let me think of something." Jason glanced around in panic, his eyes suddenly locking onto May, who was cowering in the corner. "Take her instead. This little girl is pretty. She'll definitely make you a lot of money in the future." The thugs exchanged glances, and one of them smirked, actually reaching out to grab May. Mom, save me." The girl screamed and struggled, her face covered with tears of terror. May's mother helped Jason up, turning her head away without looking at her. Her eyes gradually filled with despair. Wait a moment. I stepped forward under the unfriendly gaze of the enforcer. How much does he owe? The enforcer held up a number. What? You're going to help him pay it back? I looked at Jason. I can help you pay it back. A flicker of surprise flashed in the man's eyes. But I want her. I pointed at May. The thug loosened his grip in stunned silence. May threw herself into my arms, trembling all over. Everything went smoothly. I helped Jason pay off his debts. And May's household registration was transferred to mine, severing all ties with them from then on. May, my daughter. Before leaving, May's mother burst into tears. May didn't look back, carrying her small bundle, clutching the hem of my clothes. Her tears fell drop by drop. I patted her head. Do you blame me? May wrapped her arms around my waist, her tears and snot smearing my clothes. Keep, I don't have a mom anymore. Can you be my mom? No need to turn the world upside down. I copied the upgraded web directory to Black and threw in a bonus collection of mini-games. In his excitement, Black casually agreed to do me a favor, keep an eye on Jason for me. I want him to suffer worse than death. Quite the ruthless little girl, aren't you? What did he do to you? Avenge my mother. Black was filled with solemn respect. Gambling is the kind of thing where if you do it once, you'll do it countless times. This person is already ruined, just you wait and see. I won't be around to see it. I want to take May away from here. Where are we going? On the train. May snuggled close to me. I smoothed her disheveled bangs. Go to H-City. The little girl kept digging deeper. What are you going there for? I still need to find someone. Who are you looking for? Tom Harris. The dark-skinned boy turned around, his brow furrowed, looking for me for something. I watched him with relief, a smile spreading across my face. My name is Keep. I just moved in. He looked utterly bewildered. Oh, do I know you? Now we've met. He scratched his head and pedaled away on his bicycle, watching his youthful, spirited figure recede into the distance. My eyes grew hot with unshed tears. How wonderful that my father can still run and jump, so full of health and vitality. Humph, May pouted. You moved here just for that black egg. Am I not enough for you? Now you want to pick up a son too? I was utterly speechless. What on earth is all this? Is my mom's thinking really this erratic? I bent down to look at her at eye level. May, you're the most important person to me, and he's the same as you. May blushed. She lowered her head and said hesitantly, Keep, sometimes I really don't understand you. It's like you fell from the sky, suddenly appeared, suddenly saved me. I'm really afraid you might abandon me one day. I finally realized her unease, betrayed by her own mother. Now she has only me. I held her tightly, speaking in a gentle tone. Don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, I'll always protect you. I don't know why I came to this era, nor do I know when I'll leave. All I know is that I carry your bloodline within me, and for you, I'm willing to give everything. I sent May to school. In her previous life, she dropped out after finishing middle school. Sometimes she would lament regretfully, if only I were a college student, properly educated, I could find a decent job, and my daughter wouldn't have to feel ashamed. Now I will provide her with the best learning conditions, not for anyone else, but to make her wise and well-mannered, granting her the right to make independent life choices. While she was at school, I stayed home writing educational guidebooks. At that time, the tutoring industry wasn't as developed as it would later become. As someone who had fought my way through the National College Entrance Examination, delving into this field was the perfect fit. That day, as soon as I put down my pen, I heard a commotion at the door. Stepping outside, I saw May in a standoff with a disheveled Tom Harris. I quickly ushered both of them inside. What's going on? May folded her arms. You seemed quite concerned about him, so when I saw him squatting outside his own door, too afraid to go in, I brought him back. He doesn't recognize me and refuses to enter our house. Tom Harris stubbornly turned his head away. I don't know you at all. What if you're a kidnapper trying to abduct me? My expression changed slightly as I suppressed the odd feeling in my heart and turned his head back. Then you must at least know me. My name is Keep. He hesitated for a moment before nodding. You greeted me before. I smiled and touched the big bump on his forehead. How did you end up like this? Tom Harris sucked in a sharp breath, dodged away, and stayed silent. I fetched the medicated oil, poured some onto my palm to warm it, then pressed it onto his forehead, gently massaging it in. Ouch. Tom Harris cried out in pain, his eyes reddening. After a long while, he finally spoke. They said I was picked up from the streets, so I got into a fight with them. Tom Harris is the second child in his family. He has an older brother named Precious Harris, and a younger sister, not called He-san, but Pearl Harris. It does sound like he was picked up off the street. The He couple gave birth to Tom Harris and, to avoid paying a fine, left him with elderly relatives in the countryside, unexpectedly. A few years later, they had a daughter and this time obediently paid the fine. They raised their son and daughter with great care, treating them like precious jewels. It wasn't until their elderly parents in the countryside passed away that they remembered Tom Harris's existence. Tom Harris was taken back home, only to become an invisible presence in the household. I sighed, unsure of how to comfort him. What's the big deal? Even I, who was genuinely picked up, am living just fine. You, the fake one, can't handle a few words. May couldn't help but interject. Tom Harris widened his eyes, looked at her, then at me, and fell silent. I chuckled to myself and patted his shoulder. Other people's words aren't worth taking to heart, whether you're biologically related or not. You surely know in your heart, some people just aren't destined for familial bonds. Lowering expectations is the only way to free yourself. Tom Harris frowned, lost in thought. These topics are too heavy for a child of this age, so I changed the subject. If you have nothing to do after school, don't wander around aimlessly. Come to me. He bristled again. Why should I listen to you? I brought out a plate of fried chicken from the kitchen. The fragrant fried chicken, with its crispy crust and tender, juicy meat, blended the rich aroma of oil and the sweet flavor of chicken perfectly with every bite. May and Tom Harris were eating with their mouths glistening with grease. So delicious. I asked Tom Harris, want some? His face quietly turned red. Okay, my father's tragedy stemmed from a human trafficking case. He wasn't welcome at home, so he always wandered outside after school. That day, his sister suddenly got a whim and clung to him. As they walked into a deserted alley, two strangers suddenly appeared. One of them grabbed his sister and ran off. The other tried to cover his mouth with a sedative, but he dodged it. Watching his sister being shoved into a van, the teenage boy's eyes turned red with rage. He pulled out a small knife from his pocket and stabbed the person in front of him. The van sped away, leaving the stabbed person severely injured and in a vegetative state. Tom Harris was just convicted of excessive self-defense and sent to a juvenile detention center, losing two children in an instant. The He family fell apart. Tom's father took Precious Harris, while Tom's mother went mad searching everywhere for her daughter. No one wanted Tom Harris. After being released, Tom Harris lost his home and became a street thug, picking up all sorts of bad habits. Human behavior can sometimes seem illogical, but it always relates to one's experiences in this lifetime. I don't ask for him to be wildly successful. I only hope he remains safe and well, growing into an upright person under society's guidance. I don't know the exact day the trafficking case occurred, so I can only do my best to keep Tom Harris close by my side. No child can resist fried chicken, and sure enough, Tom Harris showed up at my house on time after school. After it happened a few times, he started feeling a bit embarrassed. You let me eat and drink for free every day. What exactly are you after? I said mysteriously. Actually, I'm a prophet. You and May are both the chosen ones I've selected, with boundless futures ahead, so I want to win you over early, so you can repay me when you become successful. The two kids were completely taken in by my bluff. May actually believed it. Originally, she was somewhat slack in her studies, but considering she was still an elementary school student, I didn't plan to intervene too much. But from then on, she started working hard, and by midterms, she actually brought back several perfect scores of bright red hundreds. I gave her a thumbs up. She grinned from ear to ear. Tom Harris remained silent, hiding his test paper covered in red crosses. I didn't expose him, instead handing him my self-compiled, complete guide for middle school students. I trust my judgment. True gold will always shine. With this book, you'll surely be like a tiger with wings. May is unhappy. Why don't I have anything? When raising children, you have to treat them equally. I was careless. You have me. If there's anything you don't know, just ask. I'm right here, a living person by your side. Only then was she satisfied. She turned her head and gave Tom Harris a challenging look. Tom Harris curled his lips. Humph, childish. Who would have thought that the book, the complete guide for middle school students, would bring an old acquaintance? Where did you get this book from? The woman wearing frameless glasses asked me gently. I wrote it myself. I studied the youthful features of her eyes and brows, answering truthfully, I've never seen such comprehensive analysis on the market. No wonder Tom Harris has improved so much. Teacher Max looked at me with admiration. Truly remarkable. You look quite young. Are you a college student? I shook my head. I only finished high school. What a pity. With your abilities, getting into a good university shouldn't be a problem. There are some things more important to me than going to college. Teacher Max was puzzled but didn't ask further. You must have compiled more than just this one volume, right? Would you like me to recommend it to a publisher for you? Talk about perfect timing. That's really very kind of you. I was just thinking of submitting it, but didn't know where would be appropriate. Don't mention it. I also hope more children can benefit from this book. Professor Max helped me get in touch with a well-known publishing house. After reviewing my work, they bought the copyrights to all my tutoring books in one go. My savings were replenished once again, whether in my past life or now. Teacher Max has always been my benefactor. When I was in high school, Teacher Max was a special grade teacher at one high school and also my homeroom teacher. I still remember that during the time I was troubled by family issues. It was Teacher Max who reached out to me first. One cannot choose their origin, but they can control their destiny. Your starting point is inevitably lower than others, so you must have an even stronger heart. The latter part of the sentence left me stunned. In fact, I had never realized my starting point was lower than others. Although my parents were unreliable, I had everything other kids did. Moreover, before my father's incident, they could be considered downright indulgent toward me. That's why, when I suddenly learned that my mother was a hostess and my father was a thug, the shock nearly tore my heart apart. But Teacher Max's words showed me the way. My parents have already surrendered to fate, but I refuse to yield. I will do everything in my power to carve out a path step by step, and I will pull them out of the mire. After improving his grades, Tom Harris gained a great sense of achievement from it. The once lost and gloomy boy gradually became cheerful and sunny. He no longer came to me just for a bite to eat, but more often to ask for help with questions he didn't understand. They became highly alert and studied even harder than before. The two children began to engage in healthy competition. I watched this scene with satisfaction and happily prepared delicious treats as rewards for them. On this day, Tom Harris had a little follower trailing behind him, a fair and chubby little girl, clearly raised with great care and affection at home. She is Pearl Harris, Tom Harris's sister. Great. I was wondering where you disappeared to every day. Turns out you've been mooching meals at someone else's house. The little brat stood with her hands on her hips, staring at the snacks in Tom Harris's hands and swallowing hard, amused. I handed her my share. The little girl finished eating in a few bites, her eyes darting around before she haughtily stretched out her hand toward Tom Harris. Give it to me. My mom said what's yours is mine, and you have to give in to me. Tom Harris gritted his teeth and reluctantly handed it over. I stopped him. With me, what's yours is yours, and no one can take it away. I walked up to the little girl, looking down at her from above. You can eat all this only because of your brother's favor. If you dare to act up again, I'll make sure you vomit everything you've eaten. The child burst into frightened tears. I smiled with satisfaction. I'm no saint. I take great pleasure in bullying kids. Wah, I hate you all. The child ran out crying. Tom Harris hesitated for a moment, then chased after them. I'll go take a look. The moment he stepped out the door, as if heaven had sent some kind of omen, my heart began to pound violently, and waves of dizziness washed over my mind. I stumbled out after him. Not far away, a scene made my eyes nearly burst with rage. Tom Harris was wrestling with a short man, while a tall man was running ahead carrying a little girl. So, it was today. Without a second thought for Tom Harris, I sprinted after the tall man with a speed I had never mustered in my life. There's only one thought in my mind. He must not be allowed to take Pearl Harris away. The world slows down before my eyes as the man runs with the child into a van. And the van starts up. At the last moment, a pair of hands clings desperately to the car door. The car door slammed shut with a thud, and I thought I heard the sound of fingers breaking. I trembled in pain, yet still refused to let go. May chased after me, crying and shouting. The van careened wildly as it sped down the main road. My lower body was dragged along the ground, my pants unable to withstand the friction, tearing open with large holes. My skin made intimate contact with the concrete, like a potato pressed against a grater, scraping off several layers of flesh. Help! Someone catch the kidnappers! I screamed with all my might. a metallic taste of blood rising in my throat. The crowd stirred but hesitated to step forward, intimidated by the minivan's aggression. Just as I was losing hope, a small pickup truck suddenly appeared at the intersection. The minivan slammed into it with full force. "Damn, you've got some nerve. Daring to come here and steal children." A fierce-looking burly man got out of the car. People began to gather from all directions. Amid the chaos, the car window was smashed, and two men were dragged out like helpless chicks. Curses, kicks, pleas, and screams blended into a dramatic background soundtrack. I was moved aside by a few kind souls, and someone placed the unconscious Pearl Harris beside me, struggling to lift my head. I glimpsed through the crowd's gaps and saw Tom Harris wrestling with the short man in the distance. The boy's eyes were bloodshot as he fumbled in his pocket and pulled out a glint of cold steel. I let out a heart-wrenching scream. "Tom Harris!" He snapped back to reality, leaped over the crowd to meet my gaze, his eyes filled with panic and helplessness. Those on the outskirts, unable to push through, suddenly noticed another vulnerable target on the other side and swarmed over in an instant. May fought against the tide of people to reach me, sobbing as she held me tight. I fell into a nightmare. It was a memory I never had. Turns out my parents weren't that great to begin with. How could two scumbags possibly turn over a new leaf just because they had a child? Two hearts never nourished by love. How could they know how to love? They fought and quarreled in the smoke-filled, squalid rental room. Tiny me, propped up in a walker, wobbled toward their tangled limbs, with one hand. I touched each of their faces. "Mommy, Daddy, it hurts, don't." The two ferocious faces froze. My mother was in floods of tears. "Tom Harris, do you think our daughter will end up like us, becoming a prostitute, a worthless person? I clearly brought her into this world hoping she could become the person I couldn't be." My father clutched his head, letting out a mournful cry like a trapped beast. The two of them began learning how to be normal people. They cut ties with their bad influences, quit smoking and drinking, found jobs, and worked to support the family. They saved up enough money and moved into a sunny room. My dad held my mom, and my mom held me, spinning around in the bright, spacious room. Keep, you're our treasure. I want you to grow up happy and carefree." The light and shadows flickered, and the scene shifted to a gloomy hospital room. My mother sat by the unconscious man's hospital bed, numbly answering one phone call after another. "We've settled this month's salary for you. You don't need to come in anymore. May, isn't it time to pay the rent? We've already given you several months' grace. It's not easy for us either. I suggest you be sensible and sign the letter of understanding right away. Your daughter is still in school, isn't she? I hear her grades are quite good." After hanging up the phone, my mother froze for a moment, then flashed a smile full of resentment. At that moment, she seemed to transform back into the young girl May. "Tom Harris, we were meant to be rats in the gutter." In my dream, I screamed, No, you're my mom and dad." But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach them. "Why did you take your sister out, Jinx? We never should have taken you in." I woke up to the sound of curses. May's swollen eyes suddenly lit up. "You're finally awake." I wanted to pat her head, but only managed to raise two fists wrapped like zongzi. Every movement sent a piercing pain through me. "I'm fine now. Don't be afraid," I whispered to comfort her. The noise around me wouldn't stop. Turning my head, I saw Tom Harris leaning against the wall with his head down, while his mother was pointing at him and shouting with a ferocious expression. "Can you just shut up?" I snapped coldly. Tom's mother paused for a moment before turning her fury on me. "And what kind of good are you? Some shameless thing from who knows where? Always luring my son out. If it weren't for you, would my Pearl have to suffer like this?" I laughed in anger. "I wasn't the one who brought the traffickers. On the contrary, I saved your daughter from them. How can you repay kindness with enmity like this? Aren't you afraid it'll harm your daughter's karma?" "You." Tom's mother glared at me fiercely but ultimately kept silent. She lovingly stroked Pearl Harris's little face, calling her, "my precious," over and over, promising to buy her lots of delicious treats after she's discharged from the hospital. Just for her, no one else. What a wonderful mother. It's a pity she wasn't a good mother to Tom Harris. In my past life, my father and I encountered Tom's mother on the street, who had become a beggar woman. By then, she had gone mad and could no longer recognize anyone. She grabbed my father and asked, "Have you seen my Pearl? Pearl is my daughter. If you see her, tell her that her mother is waiting for her to come home." My father burst into tears right there on the street. He sent Tom's mother to a nursing home, paying the fees on time every month, but never visited her. I didn't understand his feelings and naively asked, "Dad, why don't you go see your mom? Every mother loves her child. She must be so sad that you never visit her." My father just smiled sadly. "She didn't love me." Not every child deserves to be loved by their mother. I snapped back to reality and waved at Tom Harris. His face was covered with large bruises, and his elbows were full of scrapes. "Does it hurt?" That expressionless face twitched slightly. Tom Harris's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he nodded almost imperceptibly. I asked the nurse in charge to help Tom Harris treat his wound. He was pitifully stained with gentian violet, but still remembered to thank the nurse. Then turned to thank me as well. "Thank you. Thank you for saving my sister. What a good kid, more sensible than any adult." Fortunately, he didn't make a grave mistake. I stared into his eyes. "Don't be so impulsive next time. Don't ruin your whole life for someone who isn't worth it." He sniffled and nodded vigorously. This experience was truly perilous. Fortunately, apart from a fractured finger, I only suffered minor injuries elsewhere. Several human traffickers were beaten to the brink of death before the police arrived, but they still couldn't escape legal punishment. I finally let out a sigh of relief. The hardest hurdle has been overcome, and things will surely get better from now on. The two children were exceptionally well behaved during my recovery. May helped me with dressing and washing, while Tom Harris ran errands and bought meals for me. For a fleeting moment, I had the illusion that I was a helpless infant. Tom's mother had already taken Pearl Harris out of the hospital long ago. Before leaving, she didn't forget to throw a few jabs at Tom Harris, calling him an ungrateful wretch and taking sides with outsiders. Tom Harris didn't respond, but I could tell he was deeply hurt. Before I could figure out how to comfort him, May's non-stop chatter quickly diverted his attention. "May," Keith said, "be like a mirror in life. Treat others the way they treat you." Tom Harris. "But she's my mom, May." "So what if she is? Otherwise, just stop being her son. I'll be generous and let you come to my place." "Keith really likes you, Tom Harris. If even my own parents don't like me, would anyone else truly like me?" "May, you don't have to put yourself down like that. Sure, you're dark-skinned, cheeky, and always competing with me, but you're quite diligent and a bit clever. Last time you even helped me chase away that bully Xiao Pang. You're not that bad after all." Tom Harris. "Oh. So you've had such strong opinions about me all along." As they bickered, the earlier gloom between them completely dissipated. For Tom Harris, acknowledging that his parents didn't love him might remain a long-term emotional challenge. Some truths are better understood through personal experience than being told 1,000 times. All I can do is light a lamp for him when he's lost, telling him to move forward boldly. For he's not alone behind him. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye. I've been in this world for 6 years. Tom Harris had already been admitted to a decent first-tier university, and May also received an offer from a coastal 985 university that year. In this life, their paths diverged greatly from the previous one, yet they still ended up together. I never intentionally tried to bring them together, but as childhood friends who grew up side by side, it hardly seemed strange that affection blossomed over time. I only realized it on the day May received her university acceptance letter. Waving the letter excitedly, she jumped into Tom Harris's arms. Tom Harris hurriedly caught her, his face turning red all the way to his neck. The young boy and girl, in the prime of their youth, basked in the scorching sunlight, like two eagles ready to spread their wings and soar. I watched them with a smile. Truth be told, I didn't care whether they ended up together or not, as long as they were happy. My long-cherished wish from crossing over would be fulfilled. I can sense that the day of my departure is not far off. I had originally planned to leave quietly when the time came, but unexpectedly, something went wrong. May pointed at the photo on the table, looking at me with a serious expression. "Keep, explain this." It was a faded old photograph. In the photo, a young couple was holding a baby, an ordinary family portrait, yet the woman in it bore May's face. And the man looked exactly like Tom Harris. The faint inscription on the back of the photo is barely visible. December 21st, 2007, keep 100 days. This year is 2006. I scolded myself for being careless a while ago, realizing I might soon vanish. I couldn't resist taking out the 100-day-old photo I carried with me when I traveled through time, reminiscing about the past. She didn't hide it well and was accidentally seen by May, despite different experiences shaping different temperaments. She recognized herself at a glance. because when this photo was taken, my mother wasn't much older than May is now. I took a deep breath, trying to come up with an excuse. There's nothing to explain, just a coincidence. A slip of the pen, May snorted coldly. Oh, really? Are there coincidences that perfect in this world? Why did you save me when I was a child? Why did you approach Tom Harris? Why do both you and Tom Harris share the surname he, keep? Who exactly are you? Tom Harris sat beside May, staring at me just as intently, two pairs of eyes filled with tension, anxiety, and an inexplicable sense of anticipation. I rubbed my forehead, realizing there was no way to bluff my way out of this, and let out a long sigh. You've probably read time travel novels, right? I'm your daughter, and I come from the future. Time travel. The two of them jumped up in excitement. No wonder you know us so well. Young people are quick to adapt. And the two soon calmed down. Tom Harris raised a key point. If you hadn't come, what would have happened to us in the original timeline? I avoided his gaze. It's all in the past now. All that is past is like yesterday's death. From this moment onward, it's as if today is a new beginning. After a long silence, May suddenly grabbed my hand. Is the future you doing well? I held her hand in return and nodded sincerely. I'm doing well. I have parents who love me, teachers who treat me well, and I even got into the top university. She patted my head, her gaze strangely carrying a hint of tenderness. That's good, as expected of my daughter May. So impressive. She naturally embraced the role of a mother, while I was the one who felt uneasy. She gazed at the signature on the photo, lost in thought for a long time, counting the time. I should be pregnant with you by the end of this year. Thank goodness, Tom Harris, and I still have time if we put in the effort. Tom Harris came to his senses, his face flushing crimson. I widened my eyes and gave her a knock on the head. How dare you? May covered her head, shouting even louder than I did. You unfilial daughter. How dare you hit your own mother? I was so angry I almost spat blood. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen, which is why I didn't tell her. You just got into college. Your future is full of possibilities. What do you mean getting pregnant and having a baby? May glared back fiercely, though her voice trembled slightly. Then what about you? What if you weren't born at the original time? I fell silent. I don't know. Perhaps I will vanish completely, or perhaps I will be reborn as her child. But a voice in my head tells me that, no matter what, the current me will soon leave this world. I told a white lie. I am your daughter. As long as the bond between us remains, one day I will return to you. May's eyes welled up with tears. Really, don't lie to me. I nodded calmly. I'm not lying. Don't disrupt your own lives for my sake, or all my efforts will have been in vain. Besides, raising a child is truly no easy task. Even if you were to have me at this age, how would you manage to raise me and provide me with a good life? After much earnest persuasion, I finally talked them out of their absurd idea. The sudden exposure of my secret unsettled me, and I tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep. Then, suddenly, I heard noises coming from the courtyard. I quietly got up and saw May and Tom Harris sitting side by side in the yard, chatting idly. Tom Harris. The first time I saw her, she looked so sad. Our future selves must have had a very hard time. I remember she wasn't much older than we are now, coming to this world alone just to find us. What great virtue must we have accumulated to deserve such a wonderful daughter? She said we can't provide a good life for a child now, but she was indeed born when another me was still very young. How much suffering must she have endured? Just thinking about it makes me unbearably sad. Tom Harris hung his head, his voice muffled. We must work hard from now on, earn lots and lots of money, give her the best things, and shower her with endless love. I gritted my teeth, tears streaming down my face in the darkness. The day of departure was an ordinary one. May and Tom Harris held my arms on either side, smiling brightly for the camera. Ever since they learned I might be leaving, they had been clinging to me every possible moment. This time, they took me out for fun and insisted on taking group photos with me. Click. The image on the Polaroid gradually developed. May and Tom Harris were grinning foolishly, with a gap of one person's space between them. May felt a vague sense of loss. I feel like someone's missing, she said. I think so too. Where is one person missing? Aren't there just the two of you? The passing young woman returned the camera, looking somewhat puzzled. Tom Harris scratched his head. I'm sorry, it's our fault. They exchanged a glance, a wave of sorrow passing between their eyes. Tom Harris. I don't know why, but I feel like crying. May stammered incoherently. Tom Harris held her in his arms. His eyes suddenly reddening, I floated in midair, silently keeping them company. The two young people, like lost lambs, slowly digested the sudden surge of emotions. May leaned against Tom Harris's shoulder, murmuring softly, "Tom Harris, when we get married in the future, we should have a daughter." Tom Harris nodded shyly. "Okay, what do you think would be a suitable name for our daughter?" Tom Harris blurted out a name without hesitation. "How about Keep?" May was taken aback for a moment. A hint of tenderness flickering in her eyes. "Keep, that's perfect. Our family will never abandon each other. We'll always stay together." The evening glow fell upon them, draping them in a warm, golden veil. With the gentle evening breeze, I hugged my mom and dad for the last time. "I love you, goodbye." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. While stir-frying rice at the night market, I received a scam text message. The sender claimed to be from the Public Security Bureau and said they had information about my true origins. That night, an old man sat at the stall and ordered egg fried rice. As he watched me cook, he asked, "How did you get that scar on your face?" I smiled and said, "I was disobedient as a child and got beaten." The fried rice was served, and he wolfed it down. Anyone who didn't know better would think I'd poisoned him. The old man cried his heart out while eating. The man in front of me kept eating the fried rice even as he cried, "Is it too salty?" He looked up in surprise and immediately waved his hand. "Not salty at all. It's just right, delicious." He wiped his tears again. I really wanted to ask him why he was crying, but suddenly business picked up. A bunch of high school students suddenly arrived, shouting for me to make fried rice and fried noodles. I was so busy I couldn't even pay attention to the old man. The big iron spatula was swung so hard it nearly sparked. By the time I looked up again, the old man's figure had already disappeared. I lit a cigarette. The cheap smoke stung my throat, and the fumes instantly blurred my vision. I actually lied. When I was a child, this whip lashed across my face. This wasn't the first time I'd seen blood, but it was the first time I'd seen so much of it. My mother was holding me and crying beside me. When I came to, I was already at the township clinic. I asked my mother, "Why did Dad hit me? What did I do wrong?" My mother cried and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. He was just drunk." Later, I realized that some things don't require you to let go, and you can't let go of them anyway. Just accept it all. I received that text message again. He claimed to be from the Public Security Bureau and told me to contact the number provided. I've actually had my doubts about my origins before. Others favor sons over daughters, but I, a boy, was the one who got beaten all the time, from childhood to adulthood. When I was little, my dad would beat me, and I couldn't fight back, just left covered in blood. Later, my mom got too scared of the beatings and wanted to run away. That night, I saw her get my dad drunk. She packed her things and left, and I chased after her into the yard. She glared at me and said fiercely, "Don't wake your father, or I'll beat you to death." Standing barefoot in the yard, I finally understood. Mom is a woman. She could be beaten to death. She ran away, leaving me alone to take the beating. I saw that old man again. He still ordered a plate of egg fried rice. This time he didn't cry, nor did he come up to talk to me. The night market had quick table turnover. After finishing his meal, he found a corner to squat in. I thought it was another elderly migrant worker who couldn't find a job, and for a moment, my heart softened with pity. My dad staggered over at that moment. "Son, can you spare some money for your old man? All he does is drink, though he causes less trouble these days." I pulled out a few bills from the metal box under the stall and handed them to him. He grinned and accepted it, then directly reached out to grab 2 more. "Good son, give me 2 more. I'll buy some peanuts to go with my drink." I looked at him coldly. "Get lost." He didn't get angry either, just turned around and left. I have a talent for fried rice. My stall is always crowded. Finally done with work, I lit a cigarette and had just taken a puff when I noticed the old man still hadn't left. Seeing me look at him, he was so scared he almost hid. Frowning, I walked toward him, with the long scar on my face. This kind of expression usually makes people afraid of me, but he didn't. Old man, still hungry. I didn't speak with much courtesy, yet he handed me a cigarette. "Want a smoke?" I took it and sniffed, only then noticing that his hand was trembling. A sudden sense of foreboding came over me. I turned away abruptly. "If you're not eating, I'm packing up." right in front of him. I tossed the cigarette into the stall's trash bin. After finishing up, I rode my bike back home. As soon as I got home, the house was so filthy and cluttered there was nowhere to step, but I was used to it. I kicked the wine bottle, and it rolled next to an object. Upon closer inspection, the object was my father lying in the middle of the road. He was startled awake by my kick. "You little brat, you kicked me." He reflexively raised his hand to hit me. I picked up the nearby liquor bottle and smashed it, the shards splattering on his face. "Want a fight?" He instantly backed down, staggering to his feet. Damn it. A son hitting his own father. After I grew up, he didn't dare hit me anymore, because my fists were harder than his. When he hit me, the conditions weren't quite right yet. Later, after I knocked out 2 of his teeth with one punch, he learned to back off. I kicked the bottle on the ground away, lay back on my bed, can't sleep. The moon seems different tonight. I feel a bit uneasy, as if something is about to happen. I cover my head with the blanket to fall asleep. This is also a habit from childhood. It seems this is the only way to feel safe. In my dream, my father viciously stabbed a screwdriver through my palm. He was drunk, but at least he told the truth. Back then, I was too young to understand and thought he just wanted to scold me. "You were thrown in a trash can. If I hadn't picked you up, you'd be dead. You're just worthless trash that nobody wants. Can't sleep." I still replied to that message. Early in the morning, I got up to prepare the dishes for lunch. There was no response from the phone. Damn it, it really was a scam. I lit a cigarette to ease my sorrow for a while. I pushed my stall to another university town again. Business at noon isn't as good as in the evening, so I had to move to another spot hoping college students would spend more. Just as I started stir-frying, a commotion broke out over there. Taking a closer look, a young couple was fighting. They fought, and ended up smashing the neighboring stall. I was too busy watching the commotion and didn't pay attention to the stove, so the eggs got burnt. "Hey, what's going on?" "My fried rice with eggs." I quickly washed the pan. "Sorry about that, I'll throw in an extra egg and sausage for you." Got distracted by the excitement just now. Before I could finish cooking the fried rice, that old man showed up again. He rushed up to me, suddenly grabbed me nervously. "Are you okay?" "I'm just frying rice." "What's the problem, old man? Who are you?" "You've been following me for days. I even changed locations. I'm warning you, I'll call the police." My phone rang at that moment. After finally managing to hand over the fried rice, he suddenly said, "Child, I'm your real father." For a moment, I seemed to understand, as if I still didn't understand. I took out my phone and saw many missed calls. I had been too busy with business to hear them. "Biological father?" I asked casually. "Then where's my biological mother?" The old man replied cautiously, "Your mother, she's waiting for you at home." I took a drag from my cigarette and asked him, "What, now you remember to look for me?" He suddenly started crying again, afraid others might think I was bullying him. I still spoke harshly. "Why are you crying? I haven't even scolded you yet. Why did you abandon me back then?" Tearfully, he said, "Child, you were taken from us. Your mother and I searched for you for 17 whole years. 17 years is more than 200 days. He was eager to prove to me that he was indeed my biological father, so he said, "You have a birthmark on the back of your neck, shaped like a plum blossom, don't you?" His gaze was too earnest. I suddenly felt a bit reluctant to deceive him. "The back of my neck was scalded, and the skin is long gone. I don't know about any birthmark, but there's a big scar." The old man cried even more sorrowfully in front of me, slapping himself while weeping. "It's my fault, child, it's my fault. I'm the one who lost you. It's all healed now. It stopped hurting long ago." He looked at the scar on my face. "It's okay, we'll just do a DNA test and we'll know." He cried out while sobbing, "You've suffered so much, child." But I thought he seemed even worse off. From head to toe, his entire body was covered in pilled clothes, even the shoes. It's unclear how long they've been worn. The big toe area is nearly worn through. He carried an air of unease. That kind of disconnect from society, glancing at me but not daring to look too long. Now that I'm well-fed and warmly dressed, I appear to be in much better shape than him, though I couldn't fully trust him. The phone that contacted me also mentioned this matter. I followed him to where he lived. The rent here was only $10 per day. This was the first time I learned that beneath this prosperous city, there existed such cheap accommodation, stuffy and dirty, no private bathroom, let alone hot water. Who knows how many people have slept on that floral bedsheet, now dark and yellowish. Even the pillowcase and the wall by the headboard were filthy. You're sleeping here. I frowned. My smoking addiction seems to be acting up again. He nodded. I've been searching for you all these years, so I have to save where I can. This place is nice. Before this, I was sleeping under bridges. For some reason, I didn't want to hear it and cut off his complaints. Didn't you say you'd show me the photos? I sized him up. He looked about 70 years old. What a liar. Still no match for me. He pulled out a photo album from the cloth bag on the floor by the door. The album was tattered from being flipped through. That was Jack's childhood. Jack smiled brightly, his eyes disappearing into slits. His face bore some Highland redness. Though his clothes were ordinary, they were clean and tidy. I glanced again at the man named Bob beside me. His clothes could hardly be called clean, sloppy and unkempt, probably getting disapproving looks from people on the street. There's a bicycle in the room, probably his most valuable possession. So this is the 6th floor, and he actually carried it all the way up here. Hanging from the bicycle is a large sign-like object with Jack's photo and personal information. It describes the situation when Jack went missing. At that time, there was a red dot painted on his head. It seemed to be some kind of popular style. Before the age of 3, my name is Jack. After the age of 3, I was called Leo. I looked at a few photos of Jack. Now I have scars on my face and can hardly remember what I used to look like, but my heart tells me this is probably close to the truth. He wanted to get close to me, but didn't even dare to sit beside me. Trembling, he said, "Your mother and I have been searching for you for 17 years. There's no paternity test now. I can't empathize more. Moreover, over the past decade or so, I've drawn countless tally marks on the wall, yet my parents never came to take me back." I thought, perhaps I wasn't actually picked up from somewhere, because parents in the village all love to play this kind of joke on their own children, sometimes. I wish I really were a found child. That way, when Dad hits me, maybe it wouldn't hurt so much. He suddenly spoke, cutting off my thoughts. "I've asked around. Your dad treats you badly. Why don't you run away?" It almost sounded like he felt sorry for me. I laughed. "Run? Run where?" I threw the cigarette butt on the ground and stomped on it. The tiny sparks went out instantly. Not knowing what else to do, I kept grinding my toe into it. One year, there was a great flood at home. He put me in a bathtub, and I floated, not dying. No matter how much I hate him, I still have to take care of him, not to mention, he practically saved my life. He quickly pulled out a photo, unusually beaming. "Look, this is your mom." The mom in the photo looked quite young. I teased with a smile. "At your age, how did you manage to marry such a young wife?" He was taken aback, a bit embarrassed. "I've been searching for you every day outside. Do I look very old?" "I'm only 50. 50 years old, not even a few good teeth left, white hair all over, face full of wrinkles, dark and emaciated. What happened to her?" I asked, pointing at the photo of my mother. At this point, he started crying again. "It was terrible. They snatched you, just took you right out of your mother's arms." She cried so much she nearly went blind. "Your mother refused to let go at the time. She was pushed to the ground, hit her head, and had to watch helplessly as they carried you away. Your mother was in critical condition for several days before they managed to save her. At first, she and I searched for you together, for years." He pointed to his head. Later, her mind wasn't quite right anymore. Hearing this suddenly made my heart ache. I really want to convince myself that this isn't my business, and I even feel like avoiding it. "You're always out. What about her?" "Your mom is at home, and I've hired someone to take care of her. She misses you a lot," he said, holding my hand. "Can you go back and see her? She hasn't been living a decent life all these years." I glanced up at the bicycle where I was sitting. Back then, my clothes were clean and neat, making me look like a child well cared for by my parents. I lowered my head to glance at the sneakers on my feet, stained with grease from my busy and lazy days, their original color long faded. Just as I was saying this, someone knocked on the door. It wasn't until Bob stood up that I noticed his slight limp, barely noticeable unless you looked closely. The one who entered was also an old man. His eyes were filled with tears. "Bob, is it your kid? You found him, right?" That gaze was filled with longing, as if he was seeing someone else through me. "Logan, I just spoke with him. The police station said they'll do the DNA test as soon as possible to confirm." Logan looked at me, laughing and crying at the same time. "See? Isn't this just like when you were little? This time, there's definitely no mistake. But Bob suddenly patted Logan on the shoulder again. You'll find yours too. The old man named Logan completely broke down in tears. It's been over 10 years of searching, countless tests. Bob, do you think I'll never find my child? I stood nearby, feeling utterly awkward. I didn't dare to disturb, but the cigarettes in my pocket were all gone. Logan came over to take a closer look at me and said, "That's wonderful. If my child were found, they'd be about your age now." Bob explained to me, "We're all part of the same group, people who've lost children and are searching for them. When we travel to different cities, we coordinate with others heading the same way. It's good to have company." "Are there many people who've lost children?" "Too many," Bob replied with a bitter smile. "Some have passed away without ever finding theirs." My heart ached with bitterness. I could only change the subject. "Uncle, was your son about my age when he went missing?" Logan shook his head and sighed. "It's a girl in my family. When she was little, she was pink and so pretty, just like you. She was taken. We ran a small shop, and when someone came to buy something, my wife went inside to get it. When she turned around, the girl was gone." I was shocked. People would take a girl too, in my traditional mindset. I always thought that only boys were the ones who got abducted and sold. Yes, after she was gone, it felt like the sky had fallen. Everyone told me to let it go since it's just a girl, but I must find her. I'm afraid she might think we abandoned her because she's a girl. I want to tell her in person. Her mother and I have been searching for her for over a decade. Logan walked away in a daze. Bob wiped away his tears. "I don't know how much longer he can keep searching. Logan is sick. And I'm afraid he doesn't have much time left." I rushed out the door and stuffed the few dozen dollars from my pocket into Logan's hand. Nowadays, it's the era of mobile payments, and this small change is just some bills I prepared for breaking larger ones. Logan kept refusing. "Kid, I can't take your money. Go home with your dad now." For a moment, I was a bit foolish and blurted out, "What about you? If it's not in this city, I'll go to the next one. As long as someone says there's a resemblance, I'll go and see." "Child, come home. Your father has suffered too much. At last, he can be free." He spoke of others suffering, yet his collar was so worn it could no longer stand upright, its edges curled and drooping by his neck. Perhaps these parents desperately searching for their children are the true embodiment of hardship. I still rushed forward and stuffed the money into his pocket. "If you see her, buy her something to eat." Logan didn't refuse this time and smiled at me. "Okay, this is the first time I've seen Lucy." Her eyes looked completely vacant. She just sat at the table combing her hair. "Sometimes better, sometimes worse," Bob sighed. "When she's better, she can still go out for walks. When she's worse, she doesn't recognize anyone, even hits people. We have to lock her up." How was I taken back then? I had already done a DNA test before returning, and as soon as I arrived in our city, I received the results. I was indeed Bob's biological son. Only then did Bob hold me tightly and burst into tears, refusing to let go. He looked at his mother now, rubbing his reddened eyes. "Your mom was a kindergarten teacher back then, really capable, a natural scholar. She always loved taking you out to bask in the sun," and then they snatched the child right off the street. My dad started crying again. "Your mom was just one woman. How could she fight them off? It was a whole gang." By the time I realized what had happened, your mom was lying on the ground, the back of her head covered in blood. Bob couldn't go on, and I could guess the rest. Bob always feels heartbroken when he sees the scar on my face. "We held you in the palms of our hands, never imagining you'd end up like this." It was tough, but looking at them, their lives seemed even harder. Lucy caught sight of me and was so startled she stumbled backward, screaming, "Don't be afraid." My dad rushed over. "Lucy, this is our son, this is our boy." She still didn't recognize me, only finding the scar on my face terrifying. Monster beat him to death, beat him to death. My heart ached. I couldn't help but take 2 steps back. This woman almost lost her life because of me. I also wanted to get close to her, but she was afraid. Over the years, I've heard many rumors that I was bought with money. Since then, I've resented them countless times. Suddenly, in that very moment, all the hatred vanished. I spoke up. "Got any alcohol?" My dad nodded. "Yes, I'll go buy some right now. Let's all have a good drink tonight." He left in high spirits, not forgetting to lock my mother's bedroom door before leaving. He saw me staring at him locking the door and could only say, "If I don't do this, she'll run around. She's gotten lost a few times before, and it was hard to find her." When it's just the two of us at home, we won't need to lock it. Through the window, I could still see her waving her hands to fight off monsters. I decided to follow him to buy some alcohol, and maybe get Mom a new dress while I was at it. I had just taken a step when I heard a voice behind me. Jack, don't be afraid. Mommy will protect you. Come behind me, don't be scared. They say a real man doesn't shed tears easily. It's been a long time since I last cried. The village hasn't been this lively in a long time. Even the television station came. Finding someone who was abducted 17 years ago is nothing short of a miracle. According to the villagers, Bob tensed up as he faced the microphone. Thank you, kind people. And thank you, the government. I've been searching for 17 years. Yet his entire demeanor was radiant. He was like someone who had won a $50 million jackpot, proudly pulling me aside. He's still alive. As long as he's healthy, I'm completely satisfied. Now that he hasn't been found by me yet, I'm so happy I don't even know what to say. Bob was simple and honest, repeating the same words over and over. But I knew he was genuinely happy. The villagers nearby were also chattering about how hard it had been for Bob. He's had it really tough. Everyone else told him to give up. But he kept searching outside. Over the years, he spent all his house money and even borrowed to look for his son. Now he's buried in debt. My wife has gone mad, and my home is gone. Piece by piece, they pieced together a complete yet pitiful Bob. I looked in the direction of home. When I was a child, I thought a lot about what my ideal home would look like. I just didn't expect it to be so dilapidated, with Mom still locked inside. At that moment, the interview microphone was handed to me. The question came from the other side. Do you remember how you were taken away back then? I shook my head. Too young. Can't remember. The people who raised me said I was abandoned. At the mention of this, Bob started crying. His hand reached directly for my face. He bought you, so why did he hit you? The camera zoomed directly onto my face, capturing my wound, not just on my face, but deep in my heart. I used to ask the same question when I was little. Why was I always beaten even when I did nothing wrong? Now I understand. It was probably because I wasn't their biological child. Although I don't like to talk about my suffering in front of the camera, but after all, I found my birth parents. Knowing I wasn't abandoned made the heavy weight in my chest finally disappear. Later, the reporter said on camera that the country would crack down on child trafficking and urged parents to pay more attention to their children, not letting their guard down in crowded places. The villagers spontaneously prepared a welcome ceremony for me, perhaps knowing that Bob had suffered too much. The tables and chairs were gathered by everyone, and even the dishes on the table were contributed by each household. It was the first time I drank heartily in front of so many strangers. Not long after the meal began, Bob served Mom a big bowl of meat dishes and also brought her a steamed bun. I accompanied him to deliver it to her room. I watched as Mom picked up the bun and instinctively poured some soy sauce from the table to dip it in. Bob held her hand and said, "No soy sauce today. There's meat now. Eat the meat." My nose tingled with emotion. I thought of the vibrant mother in the old photos, full of energy and smiling brightly at the camera. Bob added, "Your mother suffered a lot with me too." When everything was over, night falls, all is quiet, save for the occasional bark of a dog from who knows which house. Bob pulls out a bottle of wine from his pocket. I look at him. "Didn't you already have some?" He was already drunk, but still kept saying, "The wine I promised you." Just the two of us drinking together. We drank for another hour. I went to get some peanuts, shelled them, and fried a plate of peanuts to go with the wine. Before going to bed, he said, "Tonight, I can finally get a good night's sleep." Because the house had been unoccupied for years, only this master bedroom was barely habitable. Two grown men sharing a bed wasn't a big deal, but around 3 or 4 in the morning, he suddenly sat bolt upright. He gave me quite a fright. When I opened my eyes, he himself was momentarily confused. His hand holding the clothes paused. "Did I wake you?" "I'm used to it, getting up at this time every day, so early." "Go out and search early, maybe you'll find her sooner." It turns out, for these 17 years, he had never had a good night's sleep. I stood up with him. He muttered, later, "Let your mom out for a walk. It's hard on her being cooped up in the house all the time." Okay, there were too many people stopping him yesterday to ask all sorts of questions. I didn't manage to buy alcohol with him, and naturally, I didn't get the clothes either. Bob ran off to chop firewood. "Before you left, your mom loved dressing up the most. You mentioned buying clothes yesterday. It's only right. He doesn't even have a decent set of clothes himself. Not only is it shabby, but also dirty. He's already sleeping under a bridge. What more can you expect from him? I can earn money in the future. Son, I'm sorry. If you can earn money, keep it for yourself. You'll need it to find a wife. Your mother and I are already halfway into the grave. There's not much left for us to spend money on. He sighed and continued, over the years, Dad has squandered all the money. Even if you came back with me, you wouldn't have a comfortable life. My adoptive father drinks every day. When I was little, he would beat me and my adoptive mother when he was drunk. Later, my adoptive mother ran away from his beatings, leaving only me to endure them. When I grew up, I still had to earn money for his alcohol. When I said this, he had nothing more to say. Let's go. I'll make breakfast for Mom. What does she like to eat? She's not picky about food, just eats too little and has gotten very thin. The house that hadn't been lived in for so long had nothing in it. I endured until daybreak, then went to the village store to buy some dried noodles and borrowed some vegetables from a neighbor before finally cooking the meal. I handed him the bowl. You take it to her. She seems afraid of me. Bob seemed afraid I'd be upset and quickly explained. It's been too long. Her mind isn't clear. That's why she doesn't remember you. It's okay. I understand. Go ahead. After getting this scar on my face, people nearby would use it to scare children. If you keep making trouble, I'll have Leo come and get you. Often, the children would be scared into wailing. Not long after, he turned back. Bob said cheerfully, Your mom ate the whole bowl today. She hasn't eaten that much in a long time. She must have known it was cooked by her own son. I don't know if he was comforting me or if it was true. At least I felt quite happy hearing it. The police contacted me again. This time they contacted my adoptive father. Only then did I realize that I had been bought by my adoptive father for $5,980. The agreed price was $6,000, but my adoptive father managed to haggle it down by $20, fearing that I might be found. The traffickers moved through several provinces, covering over 1,000 kilometers, before daring to make the sale. But my adoptive father was the truly ruthless one, according to his confession. Because the plum blossom birthmark on the back of my neck was too distinctive, he resorted to extreme measures, pouring freshly boiled water on my neck. At that time, just a single wipe would not only remove the birthmark but also strip away the skin. Hearing this, I touched my own neck. It felt rough and uneven, full of bumps and pits, but it hasn't hurt for a long time. As for who the trafficker was, due to the passage of time, further investigation is still needed. When I heard that my adoptive father might go to jail for the crime of purchasing an abducted child, the scar on my face seemed to start hurting again. I thanked them profusely, like saying goodbye to my past self. My adoptive father was poor and lazy, unable to find a wife. Only now did I learn that my adoptive mother was also bought by him. All the money was spent on buying me and my adoptive mother, leaving the family so poor we couldn't even afford meat. Eating rice with just salt was normal. I have to work every day, feeding chickens and growing vegetables, and if I don't do it well, I get beaten again. The worst time I remember was when he hung me on a tree by the door and beat me, then left me hanging there for half the night. It was my foster mother who secretly let me down, so I wasn't left hanging all night. This time, before leaving, I took the money I had earned, sold the fried rice cart without hesitation. Perhaps I had long wanted to escape that place. I even ran away without packing my belongings, all because my adoptive father wanted a son. 17 years of my life were stolen from me. He was just a beast, only concerned with keeping me alive. I only completed a few years of compulsory education before dropping out early, barely literate. I entered society to struggle and fend for myself, 20 years old now, apart from being a decent cook. I have no other skills, no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I often watch those college students who are about my age when they come to buy food. Sometimes they carry tablets filled with knowledge, the same weight, but my bag only holds tools and food, or a bunch of random stuff I don't even remember putting in there. Bob is discussing with me. Stay home and spend more time with your mother. She misses you so much. I'll go out and find work. And don't worry about the money we borrowed. I pull out the bank card from my pocket. I can earn money. I'll buy another food cart and sell fried rice at some food street later. Facing the future, the two of us men talked in an extremely awkward manner. We were even a bit too polite with each other. The gap of over a decade inevitably left us with a sense of unfamiliarity. I fled in panic. I went to see my mother again. She was sitting in the yard, very quiet, just holding a book and reading. I had a strong feeling and said to Bob, who was about to leave, Dad, I'll cure Mom. He seemed frozen in place. He turned to look at me. What did you just call me, Dad? Ah, he wiped his tears again. Look at me, a 50-year-old man, crying so easily. But this is the first time you've called me Dad since you went missing. Upon closer inspection, Lucy wasn't reading a book, but rather looking at a few photos tucked inside the book. There's a photo I'm very familiar with. It's an enlarged photo of me hanging on Bob's bicycle. The others are novelties that made me stop and stare. I greedily gazed at my childhood self who still had a happy life. Not realizing for a moment that I had gotten too close to Lucy, she turned around and saw me, so startled that she dropped both the book and the photo. She immediately ran back into her room. The door slammed shut in an instant, yet she peeked out from behind the window. Seeing me pick up the photo, she grew frantic, pacing in circles. I slipped the photo back into the book and handed it to her through the half-open window. I'm not a bad person, Mom, I'm Jack. She didn't seem to understand who Jack was. She just stared at me for a long time. She suddenly snatched the book from my hands. The window was slammed shut in an instant. At least it wasn't a monster today. At this point, it seems the story has come to an end. I often think it would have been good if the story had truly ended there, but things didn't go as hoped. There's more to this story. I found many wounds on my father's body. He said some were from being mistaken for a bad guy and beaten up when he approached people on the street who looked like her. Some were from exhaustion. He collapsed from sheer fatigue while searching for her. Some were from injuries sustained while fighting traffickers to help others. The largest wound was a scar on his left leg, jagged like a centipede, running straight through. He said, well, 1 year, I got hit by a car, and my leg was broken. He grinned. Luckily, the driver didn't run away. I just had to undergo surgery. And his knees, I could guess without him saying. He must have knelt down many times. As his knees were all blackened, how could I not know? The wound still aches when it rains, so he walks with difficulty too. Before, selling fried rice, he didn't have any big ambitions. He thought as long as he wouldn't starve in this lifetime, that would be enough. He never even considered finding a wife. Now I've set up my stall again. I want to properly take care of my parents this time. My father wants to work at the construction site, but after all these years, his health has long been ruined. I told him to take good care of my mother. And when he's free, helping me wash vegetables would also lighten my burden. The moment he heard about reducing the burden, he took it on without hesitation. When there were many customers, Mom would wait for us in her small room. Dad washes vegetables with great care. He always says he's met many kind people in his life, and now that he's found his son, he must give back to society. In my free time, I also want to learn more about myself, trying to make up for those 17 lost years. At first, we still had some money at home. I remember we quickly spent all the tens of thousands we had searching for you. I couldn't work, and your mother was injured, so we became poor after that. At our poorest, I knelt down and begged people for a meal. They were all very kind. He said, he probably realized what he had said and quickly comforted me. I'm already doing well. At least we found you. Among the companions we met during the search, some have been looking for over 20 years. It's hard, really hard, for people like us. Life is truly difficult. His hands kept working without pause. You could write your own name when you were 3 years old. Your mother taught you stroke by stroke. I just forgot about it later. That day, many parents wearing missing child vests appeared in front of my stall. They were all holding those large missing child signs. Each face was filled with suppressed emotions and weathered by hardship. They all sincerely congratulated Bob, perhaps thinking of their own lost child. They would soon wear sad expressions again. Someone spoke up, Bob, congratulations on leaving the team. You can enjoy life from now on. My dad washed a lot of vegetables. He asked me to make fried rice to treat his friends, and refused to take their money. He also explained to me, they've helped me a lot. I know, returned home. Mom was there picking vegetables. She was quiet. I moved closer. Mom, I'm Jack. She suddenly looked at me. Jack, I nodded. She seemed to remember something and immediately went to rummage through the cabinet. She pulled out many toys and clothes, all new, just stored for too long. Even the packaging had turned dull yellow. The clothes ranged from small to large sizes. The gifts were never the same. She said to me, Jax. Her eyes were nearly blind from crying. Jack stood before her. yet she couldn't recognize him. It was in the 4th month after my return. Bob fell seriously ill. Years of constant travel had aged his body considerably, exposed to the elements, alternating between hunger and fullness. A minor cold suddenly seemed to take a turn for the worse. The medicine didn't help, and going to the hospital was useless. I brought Bob back home, taking care of him and giving him medicine during the day. At night, I went back to setting up the stall. He felt deeply ashamed. In my whole life, I never took good care of you or your mother. Finally, when I had the chance to make it up, now this happens. I wiped away his tears. I'm back now, aren't I? My fried rice is delicious. How could I let Mom go hungry? He seemed to have been exhausted for far too long. In the end, it was time to rest. Illness strikes like a collapsing mountain. He soon became bedridden. Mom seemed to have gotten better. She hadn't acted out recently. She had also grown accustomed to my sudden presence in the household. She could even go to the kitchen to cook noodles for Bob. I don't know if she realizes her husband is nearing his end, but lately she's been staying close to him all the time. Bob still keeps me in his thoughts. He often pulls me over to show me to Mom, saying, "Jack, our Jack." After hearing it countless times, Mom finally nods along and says, "Jack, the new clothes I bought for Bob. He couldn't bear to wear them, so he folded them neatly in the wardrobe. Now they've become his burial clothes." I fed him the fried rice I made, and he said it was delicious, but could only manage 2 bites. At night, as I stayed by his side, he suddenly waved to me, "Jack, stay with your dad." I took off my shoes and got into bed. His hand touched my face again. He kept rubbing the scar on my face. I could feel his fingers trembling. He has lived decades longer than me, yet he looks much thinner and smaller. He turned around. "Can Daddy give you a hug?" I turned sideways, trying to curl up as much as possible. "When you were little, I could lift you over my head. Your mom would always scold me, afraid I'd drop you. I can't even lift you up for a hug now. Your mother was so beautiful, famous in the village, and smart too. She was a teacher. People used to say I was a toad lusting after swan meat for chasing her. Jack, even though your mother hasn't been able to take care of you all these years, it wasn't easy for her to give birth to you. It was a difficult delivery. They had to use forceps. She was in so much pain she had to stay in bed for a month. That day, she fought them for you. She just couldn't win. He was worried about Mom. Dad, don't worry, I'll take good care of her." Sigh. His final words were, "I've failed both of you." Mother and child, they say he was holding me in his arms. It feels more like I was the one holding him. It took me 17 years to find my 3-year-old self again. He searched for 17 years, only to live for a few months in the end. How could there not be regret? They say raising children ensures support in old age. I merely arranged a funeral, and once again, I feel like an unwanted child. During the day, Mom used to have Dad's company to go out more often. But now that I have to work to earn money, she's confined to the house again. But she didn't make a scene. She only cried when visiting her father's grave. I supported her, afraid she might lose her balance. After returning from the grave, she suddenly started flipping the bed. I tried to stop her, but she kept making a scene. In the end, I had no choice but to listen to her and lift the mattress. Beneath it was a box. Inside the box were numerous notebooks. They were filled with records of every place, time, and person encountered during the search for me. I don't know how much courage he mustered to keep going under the weight of repeated disappointments. He wrote one last sentence above, "If I find the right one, I'd be willing to die for it." The only good news is that before Bob passed away, the police contacted us saying the child trafficker had been found. He had kidnapped at least a dozen children and was ultimately sentenced to death. Bob heard about it. May there be no more child trafficking in this